Fresh satellite imagery shows Iran rapidly patching up damaged ballistic missile facilities, even as work at key nuclear sites remains slower and more limited, revealing a clear hierarchy in what Tehran wants back online first. The images suggest Iran is pouring resources into restoring missile production, storage, and testing hubs ahead of nuclear infrastructure, a choice analysts link directly to rising US military pressure and mounting fears of a wider regional war. The New York Times review of roughly 24 bombed sites found visible rebuilding at more than half of Iran's missile-related locations within months, with new roofs, fresh walls, and active construction equipment signaling an urgent push to restore strike capability. By contrast, heavily damaged nuclear facilities hit by Israeli and US raids, like key enrichment and research centers, show only partial fixes and cosmetic coverings, with much of the visible above-ground destruction still unrepaired in recent imagery. Experts say this uneven rebuild pattern strongly indicates that keeping ballistic missiles ready to threaten Israel and US bases is Iran's short-term priority, while deeper nuclear recovery and enrichment advances are being paced more cautiously for now. All of these conclusions come from commercial satellite shots of facilities struck during the 12-day conflict last June, meaning analysts can see rooftops, craters, and construction, but not what equipment may be hidden underground or inside covered halls. These rapid repairs are unfolding while the United States builds up a massive armada of forces around Iran, and President Donald Trump weighs options ranging from intensified diplomacy to targeted strikes, raising the stakes of every new missile Iran brings back online. Regional and Western experts say that if a new conflict erupts, Iran's most probable response would be barrages of ballistic missiles aimed at Israel and US bases and assets across the Middle East, using its rocket arsenal as the quickest way to strike back and deter further attacks. The New York Times satellite imagery investigation examined roughly 24 Iranian facilities struck by US and Israeli forces during last June's 12-day war, allowing analysts to compare how quickly different parts of Iran's military infrastructure have been brought back online. Across more than half of those locations, images showed construction equipment, new roofing, cleared debris, and other signs of rebuilding, indicating that Tehran has been systematically working to restore damaged sites rather than leaving them in ruins. Analysts cautioned, however, that satellite photos only reveal what is happening above ground, like new walls or resurfaced roofs, and cannot fully show how much critical equipment inside bunkers, tunnels, or underground halls has been destroyed or replaced. The imagery suggests that several key missile facilities, including the Shahroud test range, were repaired and believed to be operational again within just a few months, with details like cleared snow and active roads hinting at renewed activity soon after the attacks. Taken together, this rapid reconstruction has led analysts to conclude that sustaining and expanding missile output is Iran's primary near-term focus, while more gradual and partial fixes at nuclear sites show that the nuclear program is being rebuilt on a slower track. Key nuclear facilities at Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow display only limited visible repair and fortification so far, with much of the strike damage still apparent in recent satellite imagery despite months having passed since the June attacks. Western and Israeli officials say they see little concrete progress toward restoring Iran's full uranium enrichment capacity, arguing that what's visible from space suggests Tehran is moving far more cautiously on nuclear rebuilds than on its missile program. Commercial satellite photos show that since December 2025 Iran has added large new roofs over damaged structures at both Natanz and Isfahan, marking the first major construction steps seen at those bombed nuclear sites in many months. These new coverings obscure any internal work from outside view, but leave twisted metal, blast scars, and other above-ground destruction still visible, suggesting the primary aim is to conceal activity rather than fully restore the buildings. At Natanz, satellite images show the ruined pilot fuel enrichment plant now capped with a bright white roof built in December. Yet analysts note that power lines and other critical electrical systems connected to the site still appear to be out of service. The Institute for Science and International Security has reported a spike in new activity at the Isfahan nuclear complex, including increased vehicle movements and engineering work around tunnel entrances that had previously been relatively quiet. At Isfahan, buildings linked to uranium conversion that were heavily damaged have now been covered with fresh roofing, a move experts say likely allows Iran to work inside, shield equipment, or recover materials without revealing what is being done to outside observers. Nearby, a tunnel complex outside Isfahan, long suspected by some analysts of housing covert nuclear-related infrastructure, has seen the appearance of new barriers, hardening measures, and earthworks that point to efforts to protect whatever lies underground. Recent satellite imagery shows at least 2 tunnel entrances near Isfahan being buried under fresh soil, with dump trucks visible on the access roads, echoing steps Iran previously took to shield sensitive sites in advance of expected airstrikes. At the site known as Pickaxe Mountain, just south of Natanz, tunnel portals have been reinforced and partially buried, and growing piles of excavated earth indicate Iran is continuing work on what many believe will be a new, deeper underground enrichment facility. At the Parchin military complex near Tehran, new satellite images reveal a large cylindrical structure roughly 150 feet long, interpreted by proliferation experts as a new high-explosive test chamber installed after earlier buildings were hit in Israeli strikes. Parchin has for years been associated with high-explosive testing relevant to nuclear warhead design, and past IAEA and independent analyses tied earlier chambers there to experiments on shaped charges and components that could be used in an implosion-type device. Analysts say the new cylindrical chamber at Parchin appears to have been constructed after the June Israeli strikes and is now surrounded by reinforced structures and earth berms, indicating Iran is determined to preserve its warhead-related testing capabilities despite repeated attacks. On February 6, delegations from Washington and Tehran met in Oman for urgent talks aimed at cooling soaring tensions and preventing the standoff from tipping into another round of open violence in the region. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the Oman discussions had reached a point where negotiators had done what they could for now, and that the next steps depend on consultations with their top leadership before any decisions are made.
Overall, I can say that it was a good start. But the continuation of the negotiations is conditional on negotiators holding consultations in their capitals and deciding how to proceed with the talks. This very deep distrust that has emerged during this period, since the June strikes, and added to the previous distrust between Iran and the US, is of course a serious challenge facing the negotiations, and we must first overcome this atmosphere of mistrust. Today, some good discussions were held in Muscat. The views of both sides were heard, and it was agreed that the talks would continue.